First of all, I want to thank everyone for your patience. Metal Gear Solid 5 is blazing a path into new territory with open-world stealth, and it required long periods of testing and experimentation to find the right formula. However, I'm very happy to say that the goal is finally in sight. Right now, we're busy putting the finishing touches on Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain to polish it as much as possible by launch. The game features vast environments filled with a huge amount of content. Not just enemies, but also items and various interactive elements. Every day is being spent adjusting these elements to strike just the right balance of strategic freedom. This is the most difficult phase of development, but also the most rewarding. I'm feeling very good about how things are shaping up. When I first came up with the idea for Metal Gear, people told me storytelling won't work in action games. So I set out to prove the world that action games could be a valid storytelling medium. This led me to craft Metal Gear Solid using storytelling tools like cinematic effects, cutscenes, radio calls, and stage gimmicks. In today's game industry, these types of linear storytelling methods have now become commonplace. However, that was never the ultimate goal. As an interactive medium, I believe games have the potential to break away from movies and convey a story while also giving players the freedom to play as they like. The advent of open-world game design allows for completely new forms of storytelling. In designing Metal Gear Solid 5, I wanted to maximize the player's sense of strategic freedom. As a result, the experience will vary depending on the tastes of each individual player. The impression will probably be quite different from previous Metal Gear Solid games. The biggest challenge was how to tell a story in a non-linear way, and our solution was to use a freely assembled episodic format. Like a TV drama, the story gradually comes together as the player proceeds through missions and gathers episodic pieces of the story. To be honest, I never set out to create a franchise called Metal Gear, and the original game actually had a different title at first. However, various factors at the time led us to name the game after the main enemy weapon. Once you do that, there's no turning back. You can't make a Metal Gear without honoring the title, so it goes without saying that the Phantom Pain will feature some new incarnation of the bipedal walking tank. However, since the Phantom Pain takes place in 1984, the designs are influenced by popular sci-fi movies from the era. You'll see a lot of technology that didn't really exist back then. Certain aspects are realistic, but when it comes to high-tech weapons and walking tanks, what you're seeing are visions of the future through the lens of that era. We also drew inspiration from failed 80s military R&D projects that never panned out. Hopefully, people will appreciate those details and the unique atmosphere of sci-fi circa 1984. I come up with the setting and convey the character's name, age, habits, background, and language to Yoji. Then he creates the designs based on that info, and I check them and give him the feedback. His booth is right next to mine, so we're constantly communicating with each other. Once the basic design takes shape, I then leave things in his hands and check back when the model is done. Generally, we're constantly moving in tandem, checking, verifying, and discussing designs at each and every phase. Sometimes, though, he surprises me with things completely different from what I asked for, and that's the really fun part of working with him. Several characters in the Phantom Pain are the result of this. While developing Metal Gear Solid 4, I contemplated an open-world approach, but we lacked the technology. I felt we were also lagging behind Western studios in other areas like physics simulation, lighting, and rendering techniques as well. That fueled my decision to seriously invest in creating an internal game engine which we called the Fox engine. The new engine was mandatory to realize my goals for Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain. I needed a way to empower small teams of specialists to work individually on tasks that they were best at in order to boost efficiency. The engine also allowed us to adopt more of a Western-style toolchain and team structure. Without these modern optimizations, we'd never finish a game of the Phantom Pain scope. This resulted in Metal Gear Solid 5 differing drastically from Metal Gear Solid 4, not only with respect to content, but also with regard to development style and methods. If you look back 10 years ago, online games focused mainly on competition. Players would assemble for matches, then disperse back to the real world once they were done. But today, hardware is constantly connected online, so whenever you play, there will always be somebody in the world doing the same thing. Therefore, I want to include elements that take advantage of that. This time, it's not just your mother base, but the mother bases of players from all over the world. This adds a new dimension to the gameplay based on connections between players online. It's a huge challenge for us, and we're putting a lot of effort into it. In the early stages of the game, players will complete missions and enjoy the story as a standalone experience and develop their mother base. However, at a certain point, the game opens up and each player's story becomes intertwined with the experiences of others online as they compete with rival mother bases, or invite others to their base as allies. It's a different type of online experience. Hopefully, people will enjoy what we've done. I've said it many times, but I understand why people feel Snake is cool and admire him. In reality, though, Snake is and always has been nothing more than an extension of the player. He's your alter ego. Therefore, I made a very conscious effort this time to bring Snake closer to the player's perspective. As much as possible, Snake will act based on the player rather than doing things like making spontaneous comments or flirting with women. In fact, this time, Snake won't really speak much at all. Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain is an open-world game focused on giving freedom to the player who will drive Snake's action. Snake himself will be more of a silent protagonist similar to Mad Max and Mad Max 2. It's the characters around him who will expand the story. I was shocked when I heard you say it's been 27 years since the first one. I always say this will be my last Metal Gear, but the games in the series that I've personally designed and produced, Metal Gear on MSX, Metal Gear 2, Metal Gear Solid 1, 2, 3, 4, and Peace Walker, and now Metal Gear Solid 5 are what constitute a single Metal Gear saga. With Metal Gear Solid 5, I'm finally closing the loop on that saga. In that sense, this will be the final Metal Gear Solid. Even if the Metal Gear franchise continues, to me, this is the last Metal Gear. We're putting everything we have into redefining the concept of strategic freedom in open-world gaming as we sprint towards release during this critical phase. It's been challenging, but also immensely rewarding, and I can't wait for fans to experience what I think will be the most interesting game in the franchise. Please, look forward to it.